I'm Amir Bozorgzadeh. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Virtuleap, the company that is using neuroscience and virtual reality to address the huge impact that cognitive disorders have on society, both on in terms of the individuals. We're talking everything from ADHD to autism to memory fog associated to 1 in 3 cases of COVID, memory fog associated with chemotherapy, of course, cognitive decline, but really a broad agnostic approach to mental fitness. What we know about cognitive disorders in general is that a lot of them are very tricky to address. Pharmaceutical drugs have a hard time even getting through clinical trials because it's hard to understand who they even work on. But what we do know is that you can actually see and early detect a lot of these types of disorders with invasive biomarkers like fMRI machines. Brain imaging can show the functional and structural changes in these types of cognitive disorders. And so, although there's not a lot of amazing solutions yet to actually cure or address them, what we do know is that early detection with cognitive disorders, with cognitive assessment tools, is critical, so we can intervene as early as possible in order to address them, in order to delay clinical onset, and so on. The problem is that current cognitive assessment tools are amazing in your pocket. They're very accessible, but they're also screen-based, which means that they inherently fail to track and engage our whole body. VR is the answer because it's the first digital format that triggers our autonomic nervous system into believing that the experience is real. My phobia of heights doesn't care that I know I'm in my living room. If I'm in a simulated experience in virtual reality on top of a tall precipice, my knees will buckle and shake. And there's 5,000 studies to date showing these therapeutic applications. And so what we are ultimately, proposing quite strongly right now is that 2D versus VR is a paradigm shift. It's an order of magnitude difference in terms of what can be possible when you are doing cognitive assessments in a virtual reality 3D rendered experience that not only triggers your autonomic nervous system into believing the experience is real, but also your vestibular balance system, your proprioception. If I go to a neurologist and they assess my cognitive health, it always invariably also includes observations of my motor control, of my physical observations. And when you have virtual reality, these headsets, like the one in my hand right here, the most simple ones of them, there are collecting about 20 different data points of your actual physicality, of your gesticulation, of your hand movements, of your hand comparisons, of whether you're standing or sitting. All of this is collected volumetric data sets that makes this a much more objective, the new gold standard of being able to assess the mental fitness of an individual. And so what we've done at Virtuleap is created a library of VR games designed by our neuroscientists as translations of very standardized, commonly used neuropsychological assessment tools like the Stroop test from the 1950s, the NBAC task, into these 3D rendered environments to test and train a range of cognitive abilities, not just including the standard ones like memory and problem solving and information processing, but also motor control, spatial orientation, spatial audio awareness. And we're collecting an order of magnitude more data about the human condition than any other digital format ever. And we're working right now with partners like HP to even create digital health biomarkers by applying AI learning tools into this volumetric data sets, these treasure troves, to be able to even serve as a correlative to invasive biomarkers like brain imaging. And maybe when playing longitudinally our games, you could detect those subtle patterns that tells you, hey, you need to go and intervene. You need to check up on your mental fitness. And we've created 12 games, 12 VR brain training games today. We've had over 20,000 early registered users stress test our games, as well as create a game scoring system called the Enhanced Performance Index that gives you an EPI score, a weighted score per each of these games, per each of these categories. It ultimately breaks down into a variety of different subcategories like working memory, short-term memory, episodic memory. We have a very powerful backend system that offers our business model, which is B2B, to offer hospitals, senior living communities, obviously K-12, private high schools, and so on, for cognitive assessment to become available to everyone for their benefit. How we stand apart from traditional pen and paper tests and so on is, again, VR versus 2D. You're incorporating the body, you're engaging the body, and you're collecting the data first and foremost. And our roadmap ahead is ultimately to keep on growing our library of games. We have 2 clinical trials beginning this year. One SBIR NIH grant was awarded this and will begin this July. and will ultimately serve to prove ourselves first and foremost by 2023 as a diagnostics, the new gold standard of cognitive assessment, and by 2025, be like Italy Interactive, a digital therapeutic for pediatric ADHD and these types of applications. Our team is a mix of game developers and scientists. Myself and Hossein have worked together for over 9 years. Florencia has a background in Alzheimer's research and biomarkers, and Nelson Dellis, you'll find him on Netflix in the Memory Games documentary, 4-time USA memory champion, but most importantly, a consultant for brain training companies like Lumosity and Peak for the last decade. We're currently raising our current seed round, 2 million on safe agreements. 60% has been committed, and we will offer a 20 million pre-money valuation if signed before May. Thank you so much for your consideration.
Thank you so much, Amir. Great presentation.
I went over by 30 seconds, and I will apologize forever.
No worries.
You did a great job.
I'm timing myself when I saw it. Sorry.
Does anyone have any questions for Amir?
I just blew them away.
Yes.
I think they're all playing,
they're just, you know.
So there's one question. What about competition with EndeavorRx?
Yeah, so Achille is the one I meant. Achille Interactive is just one of the trailblazers, but they raised 140 million, 10 years of time to trailblaze and pioneer. And last year in June, they got their declaration as a breakthrough designation for the FDA as a treatment for pediatric ADHD. Now, they're 2D, they're screen-based. We are virtual reality. We engage the body from head to toe. We are the future. In a post-pandemic world, VR, is more reliable, it's more objective. The amount of data that also includes the body, it's just it's a paradigm shift. And ultimately, we are just an extension and evolution of what EndeavorRx is. So we hail them as pioneers. I know Adam Ghazali very well, but they will eventually have to go into VR sector and catch up with us.
Great answer.
Amir, hi, this is Anand from Singapore. I've got 2 questions for you. One is, how do we do the accreditation for any such programs that come out through AR, VR? That's number 1. And number 2 is, what's your commercialization plan or rollout plan for this product? Are you also looking at educational institutions, or are you looking at hospitals? What markets? Can you please give some insights? Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. Accreditation, I mean, it really depends on you know, we see ourselves as both a healthcare company as well as an education ed tech company. And we focus very much on healthcare initially because we need to get the right research partners on board. We have 14 academic research partners on board from the US and Europe, 2 clinical studies beginning this year. As I mentioned, it took us 2 years to build up this library of 12 games to get to this stage. And we need that next 2 years to validate ourselves as a cognitive assessment tool, as a next generation diagnostic, and then digital therapeutic probably a couple of years later. Accreditation from the healthcare side really becomes regulatory process, becoming mostly a 510K. EndeavorRx makes us a 510K for the digital therapeutics, for example. And that will be a process of its own. But we've just received our STEM.org accreditation as for the EdTech sector. And that allows us to be backed and validated for high schools, private high schools. And we have a few proposals already sent out for those types of arrangements so that we can benefit students. On the commercialization plan, until we have that validation as, by a regulatory authority across, the US and DIGA in Germany and so on, we have to wait and be patient. And what we found during the last accelerator we participated in, the ERA in New York, is that pharma companies are having a hell of a time getting their neuroscience drugs out of the door of clinical trials because they just can't figure out who they work on. 99% of Alzheimer's drugs, for example, have been a failure, and they're costing 5 times more than cancer drugs, which is the second most expensive trials. So our focus is right now to create pilot projects with pharma companies as a companion diagnostic on phase 3 trial drugs, where we would better profile the patient segments that have the best possible treatment outcomes, and they would license us for those phase 3 trials. So MS drug, for example, costs about $35,000 per year per patient for a 3-year period. We would charge them about $75 to $100 per patient per month for that duration of time. that is our focus as a beachhead market, but ultimately we do also want to work with senior living communities, get commercial opportunities with edtech institutions as well.
Yeah, I was involved in the approval of Cymbalta, and I served on the board of Quintiles at Raleigh, formerly known as Quintiles. Now it's something else. So maybe we should talk about what we can do together. You mentioned about fundraising.
Yes.
And do you have a lead investor, or are you looking for a lead investor?
We're raising with SAFE agreements. We've raised 1.1 million.
But, we just got a tutorial on SAFE from Joe earlier. If there is an equity round, would you be interested? Do you have a lead investor, or are you looking for a lead investor?
I'm not sure if we would be open to an equity round. We would certainly talk to you about it, but we raised 1.1 million in pre-seed. We're raising 2 million today, right now, in SAFE agreements. 60% is already committed. We're open to allowing you to come in as a SAFE agreement at a 12 million pre-money valuation if it's the end of this month, or 14 million if it goes to May. If it's an equity round, if you're interested as a lead investor and you're just ecstatic to join us on this wild ride ahead, then I'm totally open to it. It's just my experience as an entrepreneur in the VR / healthcare / education space is sometimes investors don't have the moxie to go with us the full way. They want to see milestone after milestone after milestone. If you're not that kind of individual and you want to go with us on this journey, I'm with you. But my experience.
So you wanted to take the virtual leap to follow you?
Join me, come with me, guys, partner with me, and let me get me out this door, because we're creating amazing stuff. But so Amir, my experience, yeah.
So Amir, great stuff. Do you have a deal term sheet you can send us? But you're looking for a quick turnaround time, so it'd be helpful to see that.
Well, the SAFE
agreement
the other side
template, is falas português? Você está em Lisboa?
Sim, falo português, sim, em Lisboa.
Que bom.
Well, again, it's all about the SAFE agreement template. I can send that over to you, see what it looks like, and take it from there. This is my favorite pitch in a long time. So thank you for your positivity and energy and support.
I will also be keen, so send me the SAFE agreement, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Até logo.
Hey, até logo.
Boa sorte.
Boa sorte. Bom fim de semana.
There's a question in the chat box. Can I become a tester, guinea pig for your product?
Well, we're available in all the major VR app stores. So if you have any one of the headsets, we cover all of them. And again, I mentioned we have 20,000 early users. We got about 150 users every day register, and we don't even market about it. They just come in, log in, give us the data for research purposes. And it's available if you want to download it. You just need to have a headset.
Hey, Amir, can you comment on the market adoption issue around virtual care? At the end of the day, the headsets are a massive barrier.
Sure.
It's a very small segment of the population that'll ever actually own one of these things.
Well, the pandemic has been a horrible, horrible biblical plague on the one hand, but it has served as a hell of a catalyst for appreciation of emerging technologies like virtual reality. And so it's surprising to many people. I used to write for VentureBeat and TechCrunch on VR for quite a number of years, researching the sector. And what's surprising to a lot of people is that actually senior living communities and older adults are actually the earliest adopters of VR. That's surprising to many. And so, the price point of these headsets is $300 for the best headset now because of Facebook and subsidizing the price. So it's actually quite low barrier, and there's a real spike in adoption. Consumer model is really interesting. We have it available there, but we're not really focused on the consumer. We're focused on scaling and B2B with senior living communities, with organizations, with K-12, private high schools, and so on. And what we're seeing is a huge spike because of the pandemic. I can, of course, share more info with you on this, offline. But it's certainly something that is being taken very seriously, and it's actually trending very well in the non-gaming, but more critical use cases of education and healthcare.
Tá bom.
Tá bom. Muito obrigado.
All right. Thank you, Amir.